Billy Hopper had been a regular at the diner since he had moved to town. He was a quiet sort, serious face, and short on pleasantries. We didn't even know his real name, which was odd in a community as small as ours. But Billy never offered his, and he didn't seem like he'd take kindly to being asked. Eventually, we just started calling him Hopper on account of how he never quite seemed settled. Billy got at it after someone caught a brief glance of his driver's license while he was paying for a meal and thought they saw William on it. No one knew where he'd come from, only that he bought up an old farmhouse out on County Road 62 and was slowly fixing it back up to livable conditions. The first few times he came in, he was alone and in good spirits, almost downright cheerful, which we'd soon learn wasn't the norm for him. He'd order a big meal, eat it slow, then sit a while, and then he'd be off again to do who knows what. He was a good tipper, our Billy, always paid in cash and left a nice little something for the girl who'd served him. We thought he might have been sweet on one of us, which wouldn't have been a bad thing, given his passing resemblance to Clint Eastwood. But aside from his tips, we barely got more than his orders out of him. Even when he was in a good mood, he was tight-lipped and squirrely-eyed. It was a bit disappointing then when he came in one day with a lady friend. She was a pretty thing, fair-haired and slender, and she looked at Billy like he was the only person in the whole wide world. He didn't look at her at all. They sat at his usual booth in the back corner, and she kept right on staring at him, a dreamy little smile on her pink lips, while he buried his nose in a menu. Curious about his companion, I walked over with my order pad in hand and greeted them with a cheerful "Good morning." He glanced at me briefly, and I could see sweat beaded on his brow. "Coffee. And for the egg sandwich on white with the bacon and grits." I wrote it down dutifully, and again turned to the woman. But before I even had the chance to speak, Billy's hand shot out and grabbed me round my wrist. Billy's grip loosened slightly. "That'll be all," he said. There was a queerness in his voice, something serious, deadly so, but also afraid. I nodded and backed away slowly from the table. When I put about half the room between us, I turned and scurried through the swinging door into the kitchen. "Did you all see that?" I asked, while I hung the order. Big Ray looked up from his stovetop of sizzling bacon and frying eggs and grunted. "What's up, sweetheart?" Mary Lou asked. "Billy, he grabbed me. Need me to go sort him out?" Big Ray's hand was already hovering over a nearby knife, just waiting for me to give him the say-so. "No," I said. "It wasn't like that. It was weird. He's got this girl with him. When I tried to take her order, he just grabbed my arm and basically told me to get." "Billy's got himself a girl?" Mary Lou abandoned the pitcher of sweet tea she'd been making and peeked out the order window. "Oh my, ain't she a sight?" "Yeah?" Big Ray's curiosity was piqued. "Look at how she's just eyeballing him. Ain't nothing like new love, huh?" Yep," Big Ray said, still craning his neck to catch a glimpse of Bailey's mystery girl. "Something weird about those two," I pressed. "First date nerves," Mary Lou said, returning to the tea after a final wistful glance at the pair. "Never had a first date that didn't let me at least get a meal," I said. "Maybe she's one of those types you don't eat in front of her man. She doesn't look bothered, sweetheart. I'd say just let it rest. You know Billy's a bit strange on his best days. Add a pretty girl into it, and well, you see what happens. If you want, I'll take the table for you." "No, it's okay. You got enough." "Yeah," Big Ray added, "and you got an order up. So get to getting." I didn't try to speak to Billy's girl again. She didn't even seem to notice so, content to watch Billy shovel his food into his face as fast as he could. He may have well been alone for all the attention he paid to her, never once looking up from his plate until it was cleared. She stayed at the table while he went to the counter to pay, something he'd never done before. I almost wished he'd just done like he always did and left the cash under one of the plates before heading out without a word to any of us. I rang him through and handed him his change and receipt, which he took with a glance over his shoulder. "Pen," he said, holding out a hand. I stared at him dumbly for a moment before he pointed irritably at my apron pocket, where a trio of pens was nested. After I'd passed over one, he scrawled something quickly on his receipt and slid it in my pen back across the counter to me. Before I could read what he'd written, he was out the door, the girl trailing serenely behind him. On the receipt, barely legible in his rushed handwriting, "I'm always alone." Always had been underlined so hard that he'd almost torn through the thin paper. I showed it to Mary Lou and Sammy. the other waitresses on shift, and we traded uncertain glances before I threw it away. I didn't know what to make of Billy, or his silent, smiling lady, and after a strange note, I wasn't sure I wanted to know. He was scarce for a few days after that. We tossed ideas around about where he might have been, laughed at the idea of Billy Hopper on a romantic getaway, wondered if he was in trouble. Big Ray scoffed at us. I know right where Billy is. Oh, yeah, Mary Lou said. Where? Tween them pretty little legs on that girl of his. He howled with laughter while we rolled our eyes and went back to work. The next time Billy came in with girl in tow, he looked more haggard than I'd ever seen him. His eyes were darkly rimmed, his hair carelessly tousled, and he was even more brisk than usual. "What can I get for you today?" I asked brightly as I approached. Although I spoke only to him, my eyes kept sliding over to her. She paid me no mind, just sat there, her eyes affixed on Billy, with the same dreamy smile she'd worn the last time they were in. How could he just be ignoring the poor girl? Why, she seemed entirely devoted to him. The more I thought about his callousness, the more annoyed I became. Here was this beautiful young thing, so in love, and he was just ignoring her. I didn't even hear his order over the sudden rush of anger that took a hold of me. "You got some nerve," I found myself saying, although I wasn't entirely sure why. "You don't care about anybody but yourself, William Hensley." The color drained from his face as he gripped the edge of the table so tight that his fingers went white. "When you gonna go right and start showing love to the people who actually deserve it?" My voice was getting louder, drawing the attention of other customers. I wanted to stop yelling at him, but I couldn't. I was just so mad. "You know what she went through for you, and this is how you repay her? You're a dog, a damn dog. After all she did for you, you can't even look at her?" I found myself pointing almost directly into the girl's face. If she didn't notice it, or my shouting, she didn't show it. "No!" He scrambled out of the booth and pushed me aside, sending me reeling into the table behind me. Billy ran out of the building with his hands over his ears. The girl followed behind, unhurried and unconcerned. Everybody in the diner was staring at me, confused, amused, curious. Sammy swept through the room, apologizing as she went, and helped me escape to the ladies' room. "What in the world was all that about, girl?" she asked. "I don't know," I replied, obviously shaking. "I just got so mad at him. Don't even know why. Didn't even know you were so fond of old Billy Hopper. I know he's easy on the eyes, but he ain't worth losing your head over." "Hensley," I said automatically. "William Hensley." "Huh?" "I forget it. I don't know what the hell that was about. Can we just forget it?" "Yeah." Sammy gave me a long sideways eye. "Okay. You sure you're okay?" "Yeah, come on. We have tables waiting." Billy Hopper, or William Hensley, or whatever his name was, didn't come back again. I was glad for it, really. I couldn't explain what happened, didn't even want to try. And even if I never saw him or his girl again, that would be just fine by me. The summer faded to a golden fall, and by then I'd finally gotten Big Ray to stop teasing me over my meltdown. And Sammy was starting to act completely normal to me again, which I appreciated. I was able to put old Hopper right out of my mind, and things were like they used to be before he started coming in. "Table for you, darling," Mary Lou called to me through the kitchen window. I grabbed my pad, put on my most charming smile, and walked out to greet the elderly woman sitting in the booth in the back corner. "Morning, ma'am. What can I get for you today? A sweet tea to start, please." I nodded and went to retrieve her drink. When I came back to the table, she had a picture sitting out in front of her. In it, a serious faced young man was staring out at us. Even minus a decade or so, I recognized him instantly. "Billy!" I breathed aloud, and immediately regretted it when she turned to me with an expression of hungry hope. "You know my son?" Well, no, not really. He was a customer a couple times. Please, where is he?" "I don't know. Like I said, Please," she cut me off, so sad and earnest. "He's not well." Despite telling myself it was my business, that I didn't care, I asked, "What do you mean?" She waved me down in the seat opposite her, and after a moment's hesitation, I perched on the edge of it. "William believes that he's being followed," she said, and leaned in. "He had a girlfriend, Rebecca, and she loved him in her own way. She had a possessive streak, though, and wanted William all to herself. He didn't take to the idea and tried to break up with her. Girl wasn't right in the head and told him all sorts of nonsense about how she'd always love him and she'd never leave him. Then offed herself. After her death, William went funny. Said he was never alone, that he knew she was watching. He told me never to mention Rebecca's name again, that she was gone and it was over. He was fidgety and losing sleep, and just off. Not like my boy at all. I tried to ask him what was wrong, but all he'd say was that if he ignored it, it'd go away. I guess it got to me because last time I saw him, we had gotten into a fight. Don't even remember what about, just that I was so angry with him. He left that night, and I'm just so worried he's going to hurt himself because of misplaced guilt over that girl. I hadn't realized I was clutching my ortopad so tightly until my fingers started to ache. Why do you think he's here? She sighed. I hired an investigator. I'm not proud of it, but he's my only child. I just want him to come home. It took me a few moments to ask my next question. What did she look like? What? Rebecca. What does that matter? Do you know where my son is? Just, could you tell me? I only have a vague, movie like memory of Mrs. Hensley describing Rebecca, a fair haired, slender beauty, and of my response. I told her to call the cops and head out to County Road 62. Small towns don't often have much in the way of exciting things to report on, so when it got back that the body of a man had been found in his home with no signs of trauma, people ate it up. According to the fury of articles that followed, William Hensley, 32, seemed to have passed away without a discernible cause. A note clasped in his hand, when they printed it, it read so many times that I had it memorized. Ma, it read, she followed me here. I thought I got away, but I didn't. She's stronger now. Other people can see her. She speaks through them sometimes, like she talked through you the night I left. I know those weren't your words. I don't blame you. I've tried to ignore her for so long, but I can't anymore. She won't leave me. She won't let me leave. There's no escape. I'm not crazy. I don't want this. But I'm going to go to her now. It's the only choice I have. I'm sorry. I love you.